What the report found was more students in debt with higher amounts of debt than ever before.
43 million borrowers in this country owe about $1.5 trillion in federal student loan debt.
Crushing student debt.
Student debt in the
student debt.
And student debt.
Or student debt.
Well, the student loan debt.
Student debt
is student debt.
Federal student debt.
Student loan debt.
So they have less burden by...
Now, what went wrong? How did something as fundamental as paying for education become a national economic crisis and result in efforts to fix it that become contentious political issues? While there are a multitude of factors to blame, the principal reason lies in the fact that a college education has become exceedingly expensive relative to income levels in the past few decades. As receiving a college education has also become an ubiquitous requirement to enter most jobs in the modern labor force, the problem has grown all the more acute.
In the last 4 decades, the cost of college has gone up 1,332%.
Rising cost of college.
Cost of college education continues to rise.
Cost of college continues to climb.
Cost of college has been a huge issue.
Jack up the cost of college tuition.
Skyrocketing tuition.
College tuition and other expenses increasing.
Tuition has been rising faster than inflation.
Yes, the cost of education has continued to increase annually.
But while the rising cost of college is a motif that is fervently echoed by media outlets, what does that actually mean for the pockets of real students and families in this country? At Penn State, in-state students currently pay $32,270, and out-of-state students pay an average of $51,635 for tuition as well as room and board expenses, which include housing and dining. However, college was not always so expensive. According to Time, in 1934, the Office of Education surveyed colleges in the U.S. and found that the average cost of attendance for one academic year was $630, which would equate to $11,300 today with adjustments for inflation and cost of living. A recent report by the National Center for Education Statistics corroborates this profound skyrocketing trend within an extremely recent context, namely over the last 10 years. The report finds that at private, nonprofit four-year institutions, average tuition and fees were $37,600 in 2020 and 2021, which was about 19% higher than they were in 2010 and 2011 at $31,700. As evident in these analyses, it's no secret that the cost of attending college has dramatically increased since the 1900s, and is not just an element of media sensationalism. These disproportionate increases in college tuition costs, coupled with the changing job market that emphasizes hired skilled workers, are the main factors in synthesizing one of the most prevalent financial burdens to working and middle-class Americans, this being the student debt crisis. This graphic from the Education Data Initiative displays how the size of the cumulative federal student loan debt has risen over time. The research also indicates that the average student debt balance is a whopping $37,787, and that the average public university student borrows around $32,880 in order to obtain an ordinary four-year bachelor's degree. In a recent in-depth investigative piece by the Council on Foreign Relations, it was noted that about 48 million U.S. borrowers collectively owed over $1.6 trillion in federal student loans as of September 2022. The same piece also exposed the fact that the public controversy is actually fairly unique to the United States, as most other wealthy countries subsidize their higher education to the point where it is either entirely free or greatly reduced in cost. This monumental debt crisis has induced numerous calls for political legislation to ease the burden of student loans to American individuals and families, especially for those of a lower socioeconomic status. While various vague proposals for student loan relief have certainly been circulating in liberal establishment circles for quite some time, the most profound example of concrete action came on August 24, 2022, when President Biden announced a three-part plan to cancel student debt. His plan involved the promise to cancel $10,000 worth of student debt for low-income to middle-income borrowers, as according to the White House. The plan would also cancel $20,000 of student debt for individuals who receive Pell Grants. And while the plan reveals the group defined as low-income to middle-income borrowers as a fairly broad group, any individual making less than $125,000 or any married couple making less than $250,000, data from Statista actually indicates that only 35.8% of households, including both married and single individuals, actually make over $100,000.
These targeted actions are for families who need it the most. Working and middle-class people hit especially hard during the pandemic.
While there was much controversy in the aftermath of President Biden announcing this plan, exactly how much would this plan actually help those struggling to pay off their loans? Well, research from the census indicates that such a policy would completely erase the debt of 29% of individuals with outstanding student debt. Additionally, the plan disproportionately helps disadvantaged racial and ethnic minority groups, as well as those with less advanced degrees such as associate's degrees. For instance, African Americans and Hispanics are far more likely to have a greater proportion of their total liabilities forgiven by the plan than white Americans. Still, concerns regarding cost, inflationary externalities, and fairness prompted passionate controversy by figures throughout Washington, D.C. and the media establishments.
This is policy born in hell.
I mean, well, where do I start? It's inflationary, it's illegal, it's immoral, it's irrational, it's idiotic, it's inequitable, and those are just the things that start with the letter I. I mean, I could go on. The United States does not have the authority to do this. Or what makes it fair to the person who paid off their debts, to the parent who just wrote the last check for their son or daughter to go to college?
Such criticism from more conservative figures and political strategists in the media has been called out as hypocritical by more liberal supporters of the loan forgiveness program, who cite conservative policies to reduce taxes and increase loopholes for the wealthy as evidence that they do not actually care as much about fiscal responsibility as they say.
By the way, it's rich that Republicans are talking about fairness when they have passed billions and billions of dollars in corporate tax cuts, in corporate socialism, and now they're talking about fairness? Give me an effing break.
Well, I gotta say,
Others have taken a position of indifference to either supporting or disagreeing with the plan, since they believe it fails to address the underlying structural issue, which is again the rising cost of education, as well as an increasing juxtaposition between the priced value of a college degree and the actual benefit that the degree offers to most people.
I mean, this does very little to address the underlying problem, which is the cost of college, and that it pays off for most people. I should be clear. It is an investment that does pay off for most people, but not for everyone. There are a lot of fly-by-night operations that produce degrees that are worthless. A lot of students never.
Nevertheless, the opinions of such media and political influencers, while important to maintaining a healthy political discourse, are not representative of the views of the American public at large. So what do Americans think about student debt relief? According to NPR, a majority of the general public, at 55%, supports forgiving up to $10,000 of a person's federal student loan debt, or essentially the policy proposed by President Biden. However, the more generous the relief, the more that support narrows. 82% said in a poll that the government's priority should be making college affordable, while only 16% said that forgiving debts should take priority. This sentiment is corroborated by another poll conducted by Politico, which finds general support for student loan forgiveness fairly popular, with 64% of respondents supporting at least some degree of loan forgiveness. However, when asked specifically about Biden's plan, 53% of respondents expressed support for it, demonstrably lower than the percentage that expressed general support for loan forgiveness. Moreover, only 19% of respondents supported canceling all student debt, again indicating that specific policy proposals for more generous relief greatly narrows the portion of public support. Regardless of one's position on loan forgiveness, it is an undeniable fact that solving the issue of student loan debt will be critical in the long-term economic, political, and social longevity of our country and body politic. As Biden's proposal currently faces legal challenges in court, it will be a long time before we actually see the manifestations and results of this student loan forgiveness program in our society.